Guys, so today I just want to talk about why it's so important to kind of just try and survive your 20s. Like a lot of people want to have everything kind of figured out. They want to be multimillionaires in their 20s. They want to, have, a family of five, all this kind of stuff in their 20s, and then, leave out of it. And then when they get to their 30s, continue to strive, which is still a great thing to have. If you can somehow get that in your 20s, then, congratulations to you. But 80 to 90% of the people in their 20s don't have any of that stuff, and you might not have it either, and that's okay. All you have to focus on in your 20s is just to try and make it out so you can enjoy your 30s. A lot of people say the 20s is the time to have fun and do this and do that, but before you know it, you're 31. Before you know it, you're 32, you're 33, you're 34, and then you look in your bank account, your savings, what do you have saved up? You look in your checking account, you don't really have a lot saved up. You're in debt, your credit is bad. There's a lot of things that you dragged from your 20s into your 30s, and that shouldn't have happened, because you're probably going to look at it and say, man, why did I gamble all that money away? Why did I invest in these high risk crypto coins? Why didn't I build better relationships? Why didn't I network properly with people? That's the kind of things you don't want to go into your 30s with. You want to be able to build a strong foundation. You want to have a good network. You want to have good relationships with people. You want to have money saved up. You want to actually be able to have something to fall back on when you're in your 30s. Because a lot of people, when they hit 31, 32, and they realize that it's hey, life isn't life isn't that long. Like, it's not that long. It gets, the time comes up, it comes really quick, and people have to go back and submit job applications. You have to go back and start from the beginning and try and find a job, and it's tough. It's very tough, because now your body is even more, it's not as youthful as it was when you were in your 20s. Because sometimes when we're teenagers and we're 20, or we're in our 20s, we could literally probably jump from a second story building and land on our feet and probably brush it off. We can probably fall and scrape our legs on a bike, twist our ankle playing basketball, probably do all kind of stuff and be okay the next day, because our body is still youthful. We still have that energy with us. But when we get to 30 and 40, well, some of the physical jobs, we can't really do as great or as efficient as we did when we were in our 20s. Even sometimes when it comes to some of the mental jobs, the mental tasks, like, if you're working on a computer, when you're in your 20, your brain is just firing. You could run off 2 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep, and still have the task done, if it's an office job or a desk job. When you're in your 30s and 40s, it's tough. You have, you might have kids, you might have a bunch of obligations that you have to do, and, you're running off of very little sleep. Now you're depending on coffee and stuff like that, stimulants, and you're trying your best, but you want to set yourself up for this time. That is very important. In your 20s, whatever you do, all you have to do is just try and survive your 20s so you can get to your 30s and thrive. 20s is for 20s is for building and surviving. 30s is for thriving. And 40s, when you get to your 40s, that's when what I see most people is what most people are doing is they are very family oriented in their 40s, and in their 30s they're kind of still family oriented. They're building their family, but they're also enjoying some of the fruits of their labors from their 20s and their teens. So just don't, if you're in your 20s right now and you kind of are, you don't really know what to do, all you have to do is just focus on work, focus on building. If you could just save even $10,000 extra a year, if you're 25 right now, if it's just 10,000 extra a year, you might have to go back and live with parents. You still have 50,000 when you get to 30. That 50,000 is very powerful, because that could be a down payment for a condo. It could be a down payment for a house. If you have a partner, you guys can combine income. If you have 50,000, whoever your partner is, they might have a little bit saved up. That's a down payment. And you can start doing that little by little, in your 20s. If you can get skill sets, stack your skill sets, go hard on your trade, learn everything there is to learn about the trade, learn about business, learn about investing, protect your health, start drinking water. Really, you want to be able to enjoy your wealth and also have a great health. So that's why you're, in your 20s, just focus on surviving and getting out, so you can enjoy your 30s. That's when it's really time to thrive. You know, if you're 21, you're 20, you're 19, well, you have so much time right now to start saving and investing. Still enjoy your life. You know, that doesn't mean that you should just not enjoy your life, but you should do it very you should kind of not do it to the extreme. You know, do it to, you know, a couple of times a week. You know, you can go out, have fun, go on vacations for sure, do all that stuff, but make sure that, you know, you have that bigger goal in your head where it's like you have something that you're trying to achieve each and every year. You know, it should be one specific big goal. It should be, you know, this year I'm trying to, you know, save 15,000, or this year I'm trying to have my business, you know, up and running off the ground. I'm trying to have at least 5 clients. Or this year I'm trying to have, you know, in my business at least $2,000 a month. I need this many clients to get that. Have a specific goal and make it really, really, really big. And so just work towards that for the year in your 20s. Every year have that specific big goal. So if you guys like this video, leave some advice below, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.